For nearly 30 years, Moldova's military was an underfunded afterthought. One of the poorest countries in Europe, the former Soviet Republic declared itself a neutral state after gaining independence in 1991. Its military membership steadily declining to about 6,000 troops, less than 25% of its Soviet-era levels. Then, Russia invaded Moldova's northern neighbor, Ukraine.
We could hear the first bombs go off in Odessa from Chisinau because it was a cloudy day and the sound traveled that far. So all of Chisinau woke up absolutely panicked, thinking that there were bombs exploding.
Kent Logston began work as U.S. ambassador to Moldova about a week before the February 2022 invasion. He said the invasion was eye-opening, especially as word spread of atrocities in the Ukrainian city of Bucha.
People here were very shocked. It was not the Russians that they knew, the Russians they had worked with for generations that had lived here, that kind of drove a wedge between what people thought about Russia and what they thought about Russia's view of Moldova was.
Do you think that having that neutral status is still a guarantee against Russian aggression?
I personally don't think so, because Ukraine was a neutral state as well.
Moldovan Defense Minister Anatoly Nasati said when members of the pro-Western government in Chisinau saw the invasion of Ukraine and Russian battle plans indicating targets inside Moldova, they realized they needed to accelerate their plans to bring Moldova's military into the 21st century.
As we've seen in their plans, when we heard their rhetorics, definitely we was targeted and was considered as a next target. That's why currently we are working very hard in order to enhance our operational capability. I've been in office just 2 years. However, in this period of time, we've been able to identify the resources to increase the budget.
How much have you increased the budget?
We started with a budget of 0.3. That was one of the lowest in Europe and I think in the world. Currently we have 0.55. And that allowed us even to conduct some acquisitions.
What do you need most?
About 90% of the equipment is outdated. Maintenance become very costly. In certain cases, there is impossibility to find the spare parts because nobody produces them anymore. My priority now is to make a modernization of the equipment, looking to implement NATO standard.
VOA traveled to the military training grounds about an hour's drive east of the capital to see firsthand Moldova's defense needs. We didn't have to go far before we found this old Soviet tank.
It provides some protection, but by far it does not provide the protection that the current battlefield requires.
Would you actually have to use that if you went to war right now?
We would have to use vehicles like that, yes.
Brigadier General Sergiu Trempe is the deputy chief of Moldova's general staff.
When you don't invest in the military for 30 years, it's difficult to change it overnight. So you need time, you need to integrate that equipment. So we're working on all these.
These are D-20s, artillery pieces dating back to the Soviet era. Ukraine transitioned away from these to the NATO standard howitzers when supplies started running short during the war. And now Moldova wants to modernize with Western howitzers too. Since the war in Ukraine began, the United States and the European Union have pledged nearly $90 million in foreign military assistance for Moldova to help its tiny military get up to speed. But upgrading even a small force takes years, so officials say that for now, Moldovan troops will need to rely on what they have. Carla Babb, VOA News, Balbaca Training Grounds, Moldova.